Hi, I'm Justin Moorman.
And I'm Katie Thornton, and this is the Re-Education of Schools podcast,
where we have open, honest conversations about how to better understand social-emotional learning, trauma-informed care, the whys behind student behavior, and how to help kids navigate it all as they go through school and life. All right, welcome back to our next episode. Can we talk for a minute? Conversational styles. This is an episode that we're excited about, as far as we tend to talk about like either personality types or just recently leadership types, or just kind of stuff about knowing yourself, I think is always a big deal to us. And so this was one that caught my attention, and then sent it on to Katie, and we were able to kind of talk about it, figure out our own conversational styles. Ultimately, we pulled this stuff from Cole Jeanette and his, I believe it's his organization or organization he's affiliated with.
Yeah, it looks like it's Leadovert.
Yes.
Is what he runs, yep.
Yeah. And so he does a lot of stuff just about communication in general, if you don't know who he is, and does, he's pretty heavy in like social media stuff as far as like quick clips, as far as like how to be better at asking questions, how to be better at talking about tough subjects, how to be better, like just all kind of quick advice kind of stuff that are quick tools that you can use to kind of improve how you interact with people. So Cole Jeanette, if you're out there, we'll talk to you sometime if you want to come.
Yeah, if you want to be on the podcast, we'd love to have you.
Yeah, and hear more about what you have to say. He also does some stuff that more training, I guess, official training things that you can get involved with.
Right.
Anyway, so this was a conversational personality types that he put out, like an assessment kind of thing. It was pretty short. It wasn't like overly involved.
No, it just took a couple minutes to do.
And
we'll link it if you're interested in taking it.
Yeah, took it and shared it with each other, and then we're kind of talking about that. So could be interesting. We'll kind of go over them. I'll kind of let Katie tell me what to do next. Okay,
I'm going to host. Isn't this always fun when I get to do this?
Seems like you should have done all the other stuff that I just did if you were hosting.
No, that's too much work.
Okay.
I think you do it too good. I'm going to host this part.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right. So we're looking at, there's 4 primary conversational styles, and I'm going to share what each one of them are, and then Justin's going to talk a little bit about them. So the first one is storyteller.
Okay. Well, I'm on the wrong page right off the bat. So
this is going really well.
Yeah, this is strong. Our conversational style leading up to this podcast did not match, apparently.
Yeah.
So one of the things he does is he talks about, like, in each one, it is like what the level of engagement is, and then if it's inward focused or outward focused. And so for a storyteller, he says it's kind of a high engagement, high others focused kind of spot, which kind of doesn't necessarily totally makes sense to me when I start talking about what this is. So for a storyteller, it's going to be exactly what you think. Like, the tendency is to engage and captivate others with like your own personal stories. So again, you're going to end up like kind of pulling towards a self-focus. So I actually think it is more of a self-focus. That might be a typo on his end. Cole Jeanette, we'll get with you and edit some of your stuff if you want us to.
Yeah.
But these people are really great at kind of like lighting up a room. All right. They're going to be good about, there's like a particular teacher we have at our school that
I was thinking the same thing. Dynamic storyteller, captivating.
He's a really good storyteller, yeah.
Captivating. Actually, award-winning storyteller. Can I just say that?
Right.
Yeah,
that's right. But that's also kind of like his style in a classroom, which is great. Like, makes work for how he does his rooms. So the storyteller, some of their strengths is going to be very engaging and able to captivate people, right, with entertaining kind of conversation, setting like a warm, inviting tone, making others feel really at ease. Great at initiating and diving in or driving conversations forward. Now, some of the challenges in this this conversational style, I guess, is that which isn't surprising, but you can unintentionally kind of dominate conversations, which really limits the space for others. You might appear to be self-centered, or even if the intent is to connect, like you might have a hard time with that because of the focus more on yourself. And then often the ability, or like I guess the Achilles heel of missing some of those subtle cues that others want to contribute, but that you're kind of in the middle of your story. You're telling your own thing.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything worse than being in a conversation with somebody. You're like, oh my gosh, get to the point. They're like, then it was Tuesday. I was wearing blue pants, and I sat next to know the key details of a story and get to it. So just realize maybe if your storytelling gifts are not super strong, this is your personality type, that you really need to learn to summarize and keep it short.
Yeah. And I think, again, one of the things we didn't say, like anything, like the personality types, like the leadership types, there's not necessarily like a right or a wrong wrong one to be in
Yeah.
or anything like that. But there are going to be like pros and cons for each one.
Sure.
So just understand that.
You ready
What's
for the next one?
Yeah.
Self-examiner.
Okay. I went in a very specific order that he went in, and
I'm all over the place.
Yours is not that order, so it's fun. It's keeping me on my toes. Okay. All right, self-examiner. Again, the self-examiner, as far as engagement, is going to be like lower engagement with a higher self-focus. You naturally kind of pull inward, leading you to spend more time reflecting than actively engaging. So again, this is going to be somebody that, as it said, is going to be more reflective, maybe thinking internally about who they are, what their situation kind of is, than they are necessarily going to be speaking out. More introspective, maybe, things like that. So some of the strengths are going to be like they're again really reflective and self-aware person, bringing valuable insights to interactions. That they're going to be careful and considerate, often thinking before they speak. They take more time to maybe think through what their words are going to be than just spouting off. And then that they're typically very empathetic with a strong capacity for listening and understanding. Now, some of the challenges are that they can appear fairly aloof or disinterested during conversations, making it really hard for others to connect with them. They often get stuck in just like a loop of self-conscious thoughts inside their own head instead of moving forward. Like it can be that real circular thinking. And then that because of all this, they can kind of miss opportunities to contribute, and they can stay in the background a lot more as opposed to being out there and sharing a lot.
Yeah, I think this personality type, if you're not intentional, can come off as disengaged or aloof to other people. Yeah. Or there could be a sense of arrogance sometimes because, they don't feel like they want to talk to me, whatever. So you have to be intentional about that to kind of break that stereotype if you're in this category.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
All right, get ready because I'm
a
wild card. You don't even know what's going to happen.
Both spots just in case.
Okay,
whichever one you say
interrogator.
Next. Investigator?
I have interrogator. Is an investigator?
Yeah.
Well, it's investigator. Sorry. Obviously, I need glasses when I was saving that one.
Man, our strength today is conversation.
Okay.
Types. Just to give you an insight, we record these in bunches, and this is not the first one we've done today. This is we're in deep at this point. So the investigator type is going to be high engagement, high others focused. Again, your natural tendency pulls you more toward curiosity and questioning. You love digging into other people's stories and details. And you often engage with a stream of questions that make people feel valued. The outward focus, though, can sometimes create a lopsided conversation, almost like the opposite of the storyteller, right? You're almost so focused on pulling the other person's story out that they almost feel potentially like they are not getting much back from you. So some of the strengths, these people are excellent at gathering information and creating depth in conversations because they just want to keep asking more questions and go deeper. They make other people feel valued and encourage them to open up. And they're naturally curious, leading to dynamic and lively conversations. But some of the challenges are going to be that they can miss social cues indicating that other people need space. They may avoid self-disclosure, so they're not going to share a lot about themselves overall. And that can, again, lead to those unbalanced conversations. And then they can themselves feel unseen because even though some of their own tendencies lead it this way, it can feel like the conversation is one-sided.
Yeah, and I would say it could come off or appear someone doesn't know any boundaries, like continuously asking or pressing for somebody and maybe not really being in a space to really want to talk about that anymore, or just they wanted to just share and wanted you to listen. They didn't want you to solve it. And when you're continually asking questions, it could come off as not really a safe space to be vulnerable in.
Yeah. It seems like you know a lot about that one.
Well, we're going to find out why. Gotcha. All right. Last one. I think you should be ready for this one.
I am, unless you say a word that's not the word I have.
Making up. I don't think interrogator is a bad, maybe self-consciously it comes off that way.
Maybe they changed it at some point.
Or it was a Freudian slip on my end, right? I don't know. All right. Contemplator.
That is what I have.
All right.
Next.
I'm nailing it as host right now.
So
okay.
Contemplator is going to be low engagement and high others focused. So again, you have a natural inclination toward listening and giving other people space. I think is a real strength, right? And then the tendency pulls you towards being quiet or reflective yourself. You want to observe and maybe absorb. But you're going to struggle potentially to actively engage. So some of the strengths, again, deeply attentive listener, making others feel valued and understood. These are the people, in all likelihood, that a lot of us love to go talk to if we have like a problem or if we are thinking about like a decision or something like that, because they're really attentive listeners and that they're really making people feel valued and understood. Empathetic, non-judgmental. They create a lot of safe space for other people to open up, and that they're a calming presence that brings ease to conversations. Some of the challenges, though, they may appear passive or disengaged, making it harder for others to connect. They struggle to turn thoughts into active participation. So again, they might miss moments to connect. And then finally, like this reluctance to self-disclose, similar to now I'm going to say investigator. What is it? Interrogator. No, investigator.
Self-examiner?
Yeah. Yeah, they're like they're limiting like how much they disclose to other people, keeping relationships on a surface level. Thoughts on that one?
I don't think that's, conversational wise. I think sometimes they become quiet, and so you have to be okay with silence. I don't think this personality type probably feels like they need to fill the dead air all the time.
Yeah.
And that calm, quiet, gentle conversation, casual saying of things. They're just not someone's going to go talk your ear off somewhere, and that's okay. Sometimes that's a good place to be.
Yeah. Okay, so out of these, I'm taking back over, apparently.
Okay, go ahead.
Out of these, what were each of us? Or where did we lean?
I lean more to what I'm calling it now the interrogator, but it's really the investigator. I'm a questioner. I think. What about you?
I think when I took it, it was self-examiner. I thought that you had at one point said that you thought maybe it was.
No, I said I don't. I could see that, but I really think you come off more as the contemplator.
Yeah.
Just knowing you, I just think you're a really good listener. You're very. I think people would identify you as a very good listener.
Gotcha. So all that bad stuff I said about the contemplators just now.
Yeah.
No, I do think that one of the points he makes, that Cole makes in all of this, and that the personality type packet that we're kind of looking at goes through, is it does talk about how really the goal is to move towards the center. Like you can imagine for those of you just listening, more of a quadrant kind of, what would you call this picture?
It's 4 boxes. So
I thought there was like a name for it,
there is. It's
like an infographic kind of.
Josh, help! What do you call it? It's same thing with the social discipline window.
How many episodes have we recorded today, Katie?
This is number 3, but it's 4 boxes. It's 4 squares put together as a rectangle.
Yeah, exactly. And so then each conversational type is in each one of those squares that's broken down.
Drop in the comments what you actually call it.
Yeah,
that would be helpful.
That would really help us out. And then also comment on how many episodes we should record in one day.
Yeah.
So what Cole says is that you should move towards the center as much as possible, as opposed to being like really deep as an outlier in one of these areas. The goal is always to kind of move towards the center to where you're more well-rounded as a whole. We're all going to probably lean towards one of these directions at various points, but like the goal is to kind of be in that middle part as much as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense because each one of those has their strengths, but I think for a balanced conversation, you need to have a little bit of each. I think some of the things that I need to be mindful of, knowing that I'm more of an investigator, is that I can come over as overbearing or demanding, or can come off condescending when you're asking a lot of questions like, well, why did you do that? Why, So I think I have to just be mindful of that and just see people's boundaries and approaching this from a genuineness in my conversational skills instead of, and it also links to my identity of having to fix things.
Yeah.
So the consequence, all the questioning can't be like, I need to have an outcome from this other than just to authentically listen to somebody.
Yeah. I think whether it's the self-examiner or the contemplator is probably, I lean in those two directions more than the other. Both of them that tend to be more inward focused, right? I do tend to be more introspective, I think, in general. Talk about personality types a lot. It matches up with what my personality type is as a whole, and I think just kind of who I am.
Yeah, I would say you don't share, open up very often, so it kind of takes a while to kind of get into like the center of having like a real authentic conversation where it's reciprocal 2 ways with you.
Yeah, it's for sure true. This can keep me seeming kind of distance, like I said, to others, or I have to be intentional about initiating engagement and like really seeking that out. And then I have to shift focus outward sometimes, like not because it's all just about me in a conversation as much, but as much I think I tend to I need to like embrace like curiosity of other people. I was just telling somebody else the other day that they were a really great question asker, I thought. And then I described myself. I was like, I feel like I'm more of I tend to like try to explain the reason why. Like, and so I have to be conscious about like asking questions as opposed to being like, hey, we're having a conversation. You say this. And I'm like, oh, let me explain why that's real. Let me explain why that's the case. Let me explain why it seems like you might think that. Let me explain why. And that's just kind of, again, more of my personality type in general. I don't think it's annoying. Maybe it's annoying, but I have to be better at like asking questions of people instead of
or being intentional in those relationships to maybe indulge or be vulnerable enough to share information.
That's what you keep going back to. You just want me to say more.
Take some time, but that's how people get to know you, right?
Why? Yeah. So why does this matter though? Why does it matter like to know your personality type? Why would we even do an episode on it besides it's just kind of interesting?
Yeah, I think when you're looking at engagement with other people, it all goes down to communication, right? And I think if you're aware of your communication style, just know your communication style is not for everyone. And so to Cole Jeanette's point, you do kind of have to pull towards the middle and kind of understand the time and place for each one of those conversational styles and the tone of the conversation or the meeting. Obviously, a more formal meeting with a family, you might need to be more of an investigator. You talking with staff, you might need to be more of a contemplator. Your job might be more of a listening. You're going out and building friendships, or like your attention is only relationship building. You might need to be more of a storyteller. So when you're intentional about that, and that goes for kids too, talking with kids, your tone of your conversational style might need to lean to the purpose of the interaction. And so I think if you can be intentional about that and realize that, I think that will lend itself to stronger relationship building and genuineness in conversation.
Yeah, I think I agree with all that stuff, right? Like you kind of shift yourself based off of, or at least be aware that you can shift yourself. Again, like some things, like we did the episode on leadership styles, like some things can shift. You can make conscious decisions to be different. Some things are your personality. You're not necessarily going to be able to do that as much. With this, the way it sounds, it's not like you're locked in. And because I'm a contemplator or self-examiner or investigator, like I have to just be that. I can make conscious efforts to make myself be one of those other things or to lean better in that direction. And I think knowing that is important. I think a lot of people, we can not think about it enough to ever make a decision to change how we are. And so then how we lean, we're like that with the parent of a family. We're like that with our administrator. We're like that with the person we co-teach with. We're like that at home with our significant other. We're like that with our own children. We're like that with the kids in our class. And we don't ever make the shift. And we almost end up expecting other people to adjust to us and where we're at. Instead of maybe finding the ways that are best to adjust to others. So I think that's super important. I think the other thing is too, like, regardless of what age you're in, and I think especially if you have older students, probably middle school, even up, maybe older elementary school, but it'd be such an interesting thing, not necessarily to take the actual quiz, but to talk about these different styles with the students in your class. I think the older the kids get, the better that conversation probably is. Well,
it leads itself to like writing class, right? You're teaching kids how to write. You write for different types of purpose and reasons.
That's the
intent of authors as they're writing, as you're reading literature, what is those intentions and how the style of that, it leads all into this.
Yeah.
Character development, right.
Yeah. And just like the better you know those people around you. And for us, if we're classroom teachers, the more you know the students in your class and where they kind of tend to naturally land. And they're like, like all of a sudden I understand. Maybe the kid's a storyteller, but they never understood that they were a story. They didn't even know there was an option to not be a storyteller.
And they might be the kid that dominates a lot in class that you might need to make them self-aware of that. A lot of this work, I put another note in here about the social pragmatics and the paraverbals and how kids, especially with screen time, where a lot of their interaction is digital, where you don't get paraverbals or those social pragmatic opportunities, we might need to be more explicit about how to teach those with kids that, hey, you've dominated this whole meeting. We've heard all your stories and nobody else has talked, right? Yeah. Those are good social interaction skills that kids need to be kind of self-aware of. Yeah. Especially in our digital age.
Yeah. And I think in general, people, right? I think when you sit around and you watch some of the content that Cole puts out in various ways, like he does a really great job of explaining why some of the stuff is happening, why people are landing in certain spots, and what simple little shifts we can make that we don't realize are making people feel a certain way, or are making people react to us or not react to us at all in different ways. And so I think make yourself better at this stuff is important. But I think how helpful would it be to have a class, again, of any age, sit around and talk about some of this stuff and understand that there are different perspectives. I really do think this would be such a fun conversation to have if you're in, I'm sure, middle school, but especially high school. I think it'd be such a fun conversation to have with your class, no matter what you're teaching, is to spend half of a day or one of your class periods, whatever. I know you just got stuff you got to do, but like spend a day just getting to know everybody and seeing where people land and talking about why they think they're that certain conversation type and what that means and what you can do with that and things like that. I just think it would be really interesting.
Yeah, it goes into those higher level soft skills that we really have to develop in kids as they go into the workforce.
Yeah.
No matter what their job career will be, that these are skills that you have to be mindful of and to kind of know yourself and how to be intentional and the tone for the right environment. Teaching kids to understand that too.
Yeah, I think back to my own experience as a kid all the way through school. It wasn't until later in high school where I would do much volunteering to speak up. I always did well in school. I'm a really smart person. No, I just felt like a really weird thing to say, I guess, after I said it. But no, I always did pretty well in school, but I was quiet. And I was not the kid raising his hand. I was not the kid volunteering to do a lot of stuff or anything like that. It took people telling me, and again, I think it was when I was older, whether it was on some sports teams I played on or whether it was on in certain classes that were like, hey, like I want to hear what you have to say, or hey, you should speak up and say this thing, or hey, what are your thoughts on this? And I'd tell like the teacher or the coach or whatever, and they're like, you need to say that to like the team, you need to say that to the class. And I'm like, oh, like it never necessarily occurred to me or was never like a drive in me. And so I know there are those kids out there that are like that, just like there are the kids out there that are, you know, more storytellers, and they're like, oh, I didn't realize I need to stop and listen, and how much value there could be in that. So I just think sometimes there's stuff that we need to actually be taught that's beyond, to your point, Katie, like beyond like the academic stuff that can be so helpful and can really change the trajectory for some kids that we have and open them up or help them learn how to listen or whatever it might be. All right. So how can we intentionally grow in the development of our conversational skills?
I think just understand I think it's great to take the quiz to understand which box you fill in, and then you're going to have to figure out maybe one category that maybe you're not as good at, and kind of it all goes back to intentionality and getting feedback to understand the confidence, especially, and when you're in education, there's a lot of tough news that has to be talked about, kids that aren't doing well, kids that need intervention, families that are in crisis, kids that are in crisis, and you kind of have to be when you're not as confident in delivering tough news, you kind of have to figure out maybe it's your conversational style that you need to be more intentional picking up another one in those situations. Watch others and learn from them. I think it's really fun to look at people that, like you said, we have somebody that's exceptional storyteller, really, really get engaged. Like people are engaged, which that can come, you could be a storyteller and not be engaging, right?
I've never seen somebody in him, and won't call him out by name or anything, but like who can start off like we had like a random like staff meeting. It was gonna be like a tough staff meeting, and this guy tells a story to start things off. People applauded. Like he ended his story and people applauded, and I thought, like we're in like a potentially tough staff meeting that's getting ready to happen, you know, and we've got people applauding and kind of laughing and whatever else. Like that's
nobody could pull it off. So I think about really what your strengths. Watch other people that are excellent at those things. If you're not good with having tough conversations, watch somebody do it. Yeah. And the skills and the tone. I had a principal that she was amazing. She's an amazing communicator, and I get to work with her now, and she's really, really good at communication. And I really see questions she asks or phrases she says, and I've really taken note of those things, and it's served me well in helping with some of those things. And just be more patient, work on the small micro interactions, set goals for yourself, and then just continue to watch people that are really, really exceptional at each one of these categories and kind of learn from them and figure out when that needs to serve you well.
Yeah, and you mentioned this already, for me, as always, it's the first step is actually just knowing yourself well. I take the assessment, like Katie said. I think read the the stuff that he sends you. Find somebody it doesn't have to be Cole Jeanette. It just happens to be who I've kind of watched some, and I think he does a really, really great job of explaining some things. Find somebody like that and get better, like practice and get better at various things, at kind of moving towards that center and not just leaning so heavy into what your natural tendencies are. I also think, absolutely go and find like your teammates, like find out who they are in this. It's so often that we have in our building, referenced, and again, we say the Enneagram a lot, but like we did that as a whole building and figured out, kind of where people landed. And there are so many times that we very purposefully approach situations or work with people in a certain way because we know who they are. And hopefully they're doing the same thing to us, I would imagine. I mean, everybody knew everybody's numbers and where they fell. There's a lot of value in that. And there's a lot of value in something like this too, to realize not just who you are, but to also know who other people are, and to lean into that a little bit and be like, you know what, actually, you're really great at being a storyteller. I've got this tough, thing that we wanted to convey to everybody. You'd be a really good person to kind of lead that off. Or I am going to have a tough conversation with this parent. And I'm not great at asking questions all the time. And could you either prep me ahead of time, help me with that, because you do a really great job? Would you sit in with me and maybe help me hear the questions or ask questions? I think there's things we can do on purpose, but we have to know about people and we have to know about ourselves first.
Yeah, to your point, that person was a really good storyteller. There was some intentionality, knowing that person could communicate really well and effectively, and come off the way they were able to, because the staff knew that person was going to be able to do that because they're strong storytelling skills.
Yeah. Like we needed to be how
that needed to be the person that did it.
You could have been the one to lead it off and done it a different way, and it would have set a different kind of tone for that community.
100%.
Yeah. And so I just think utilize those people, but you have to know the people first. And so get to know each other. That is really important. I'm not saying you have to be everybody's best friend, but I think it's important to know who people are by and large. One of the things that it said in the packet that we got after we took the assessment ourselves said at the center, moving towards the center, like we had talked about, you'll find the right blend of sharing, listening, asking, and reflecting. A place where conversations feel connected, mutual, and fulfilling. Reaching this balance doesn't require abandoning who you are. I think that was an important line. It simply means blending your natural strengths with new skills that allow for deeper, more dynamic interactions. There's like that phrase, right? And you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but the reality is we should always be improving ourselves in some way and learning more about ourselves and understanding that we can change and we can be better. So I thought that was really good. All right. So what do you want people to walk away knowing from this episode?
I put your vibe really attracts your tribe, like the people you surround yourself with. So be mindful about that. If you surround yourself with good listeners and communicators, then that mirror neuron effect will support and develop those. So, and ultimately people really want to be just that heard, seen, and valued.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's
however you communicate that's the core of who we are.
I think sometimes people think that they're either really good at talking with others or they're just not good at talking with others. Oh, I'm good at having conversations with people, or I'm not. And that's just not true. The reality is that it's a skill that can be practiced and adjusted and honed to make us better conversationalists, but ultimately just better communicators too. I mean, conversation can sound like one thing, can sound more like just hanging out, but really it's about communicating. And are we going to make ourselves better communicators with the people around us, or are we going to just say that, well, whatever I am, and that's it, and I can't get better, and I'm not going to try. Be willing to be better at it. Be willing to like search something out, whether it's Cole Jeanette stuff or something else. Yeah. Get better at communicating with others. Understand that other people don't communicate the same way that you do, and what that means for them. So take the time to do some work and improve yourself in these kind of ways. I think that's important stuff to do, because it'll make you a better teacher. It'll make you a better administrator. It'll make you just a better person in general. As always, we just really appreciate you guys joining our conversation. Yeah. A conversation about conversations. It was a fun one today. Even though we struggled in conversation. just like the least conversational we were. Yeah. No, we just struggled a couple times.
You know what? And I think it's, we sat down and I just looked at Justin. I said, I've talked to Justin a lot this week. Yeah. Justin and I have had transactional conversations. I said, I feel like I haven't talked to you this week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So think about some of those things. And you talk about conversations, like what type of conversations am I always having with people?
Yeah. Is it always just transaction or are there like real
we haven't had like a genuine conversation this week, so I'm sorry. It's been busy.
It was a really busy week for sure. Well, as always, we really appreciate you guys joining the conversation. Hopefully you found this helpful. Hopefully these kind of things are a little bit different than what you normally hear from education style podcasts or books or articles that you're reading. Like this stuff is important because it's people. Yeah. Like when it all comes down to it, we're working with people and it's people kind of interactions, and that's the business we're in. So hopefully you found this helpful. Share it with somebody. Share it with whether it's just your grade level team, whether it's the people you live with at your house, whether it is an administrator, whether you do it in a staff meeting and you all just talk about what personality, what's conversation.
Fun staff meeting just to be team building.
Yeah, and be an easy one. Everybody does it, and then we share and talk about it.
And then make a little anchor chart, and then be mindful and intentional about it for the school year.
Yeah, so just a lot of ideas for it. Let us know what yours was. If you're interested in doing that, we'd love to be able to hear from you. And as always, let's go out and do the work.
Let's go do it.